action. Just action is social when the actor behaves in such a manner that his action is intended to influence the action of one or more other persons. Yeah, which action we will term as a social actions when you have the actor has some intentions. He knows that these actions will have some influence or some effects on the guys on the person with whom he is interacting. So that actions will be the social action. Or in case if he is doing something, so it will must have some consequences, either positive or negative. Yeah. So elements of social actions, what are the elements? So the actor, the individual that perform actions, the doer of that action, and then the goal, or what is the goal, the objective of action. So a doer is doing something, it must have some objective. Then there must be a social situation, and social situation is an agent of that social action. And then normative orientations, the social patterns, customs, values, norms, whatever. But there must be a normative orientations. And then five, the energy, the ability to perform that social action is called energy. Yeah. So the type of social actions, Max Weber has classified social action into the four categories. So let's have a look at those categories. The first one is the rational orientation to a system of discrete individual ends. So the logic that every event has its cause is the main idea in the such social actions. Yeah, in this type of actions, that actor is behaving rationally, and he know that whatever he is doing, he must have some cause, and he that action must have some effects and cause. The another one is the rational orientation to an absolute value. So such type of actions are done for the highest dignities, like truth, faith, sacrifice. This is the second category of the actions. And third one is the traditional oriented actions. So some actions people perform because of the customs or the rituals and beliefs. These are called the traditional oriented actions. And the fourth one is in such type of actions, emotions are involved, feelings of people are considered. It is neither rational nor traditional. And another thing is that it is unplanned actions. So the actor performs that action according to his feelings or according to the feeling of the society. So what are the examples of the social actions? For example, there is a bus in your street or on the road which is not starting, so people are getting together to push that bus and make it start, or people removing a big hood from the path. In the same way, villagers are building dam around a village to save the village from the flood. These all are example of the social actions. So what is the social interaction? We know that interaction is you are meeting people, you are shaking hands with someone, you are going to someone marriage, you are going to attending a death ceremony of someone, funeral ceremony of someone. These are our social interactions. So it is a social process between two or more than two persons. It is always reciprocal in nature. It has effect in both way. It can be called a stimulus response condition among the individuals. According to Merrill, it is a general process where two or more persons are in meaningful contact, as a result of which their behavior is modified, however slightly. So when you are interacting with people, then it has impacts. We say that whatever companies you are keeping, it must have effect. In the same way, when you are interacting with the individuals around you, it must have some impacts on you and some impacts on the person with whom you are meeting. So what are the elements of social interactions? So what we need to have social interactions? So the first thing is that there must be two or more than two persons. You cannot interact with yourself. Obviously you need someone to interact with. It could be one person or more than one person, and there must be a reciprocal relationship among them. They must be it is give and take concept. You are interacting with someone, you are getting something, and he's you are giving something. There must be the third one is there must be influence on the event, behavior, brain of the persons. like you are meeting someone, there must be some influence on that mention things. So these three conditions interrelate the people among themselves and convert them into a social group. So this was about the social interaction. Then we have types of social interactions. There are two major type of the social interactions according to Young and Meg. One is direct or physical interactions. It involves the physical action among the individuals. It could be beating, fighting, biting, thrashing, pulling, pushing, boxing, kissing, etc. For example, two teams are playing match or soldiers fighting wars is the example of physical interactions. When you are playing match with someone, so you are physically there and you are interacting with people physically. If you are fighting wrestling match, or if you are fighting war, so these are example of physical interactions. It could be you are hugging someone, your loved ones, you are going on date. So these are type of physical interactions. And then we have symbolic interactions. This type of interactions involve the use of language and symbols. It could be a communication through a common language, and since all cultures are expanding or changing through the language, so this is called symbolic interactions. Similarly, shaking, waving hands at each other's. These are also example of symbolic interactions. And we use different instruments to facilitate symbolic interactions like telephones, rails, roads, etc. So anyway, these were two types of social interactions. Now let's proceed to the forms of social interactions. There could be four possibilities of social interactions. For example, between individual and individual, it could be between doctor and patients. If you are a patient or if you are a doctor attending patient, so this interaction is between the two individuals. It could be one individual and the group. For example, the teacher is taking class, so teacher is one individual and is addressing more than one or two students. This is the second type of interaction. And then we have between group and group, so two team playings or two forces fighting, and there could be many more examples as well. So two groups are interacting with each other. Then we have between individual and culture. Yeah, so this type of this form of the interaction is found when the people listen to radio, TV, newspaper, enjoy pictures and absorb exhibitions. So for example, if you are sitting in your home, you are turning on the TV and you are watching the TV show from another country, or if you are watching movie of that some other country or some other culture, then you are in this you are getting involved in this form of social interaction. So these were a different form of social interactions. Now let's move to the measurement of social interaction. How you will measure that, how effective or how strong the social interaction is. So the social interaction is a process of chain and it can be measured mathematically. Its effect can be predicted. So following factors are responsible for it. First is the frequencies. So by frequency we mean how many times you are there, the two individuals, the two individual or group or whatever, they are interacting with each other. So it's the number of interactions. So if the number of interactions are more, it will have greater influence compared to the lesser number of the interactions. Then there is the duration. And so more you are spending time in that interactions, it must have more impact on this person. If you are listening to something now and again, for example, if you are watching TV show all the time, it will have more impact compared to the just having enjoying it for 5 moments. Or we can give another example where that, for example, someone is watching all cricket match or someone is just watching highlights. So the guys who is watching all match must have more impact on him as compared to the guy who is just watching highlights. Then there is another term which is called intensity. It's how much importance those individuals are giving to that importance. When both are agreeing on that agreement or on that discussions which they are doing, So it must have more impacts compared to the just if they are not taking serious. If I mean, if they are not taking serious that interactions, so it will have like less lesser effects. Then the fourth one is the focus. So if there must be a subject matter on the basis of which they are interacting. So for focusing the attention of interacting persons, we must have some subject matter. So by calculating all those above factors, we can calculate the social interaction. So remember, friends, if we have more frequency, duration, intensity, and focus, the social interactions will be stronger compared to the lesser number of meeting or duration or whatever we have studied in that slide.